Of the top 100 most valuable brands in America, 85 of them started as personal brands. Disney, JP Morgan, Versace. And today, we're getting into why personal brand isn't just for influencers and the both and strategy that might change how you think about scaling. Welcome to the Story of Scale. Welcome back to the Story of Scale. Chad and I are loving these conversations. Excuse me, Chadwick and I are loving these conversations.
That's what I get for using that P word last episode, huh?
We're not even going to fill in the blank, which maybe if this is your first episode, that's what's going to make you go back and find out what P word it is that he's referencing.
It might be exactly what you think.
We're talking all about how to succeed at scaling a business, but along the way also more than that to live a story that is truly worth scaling. That's really what it's all about for us as business owners. And today we're talking about personal brands. Why are we talking about personal brands? I was recently scrolling through my LinkedIn feed, as one does, and I saw this little stat. I don't remember what the stat was. I should have screenshotted it, but it was basically like, hey, I'm a founder, and our company just ran an experiment. Our company has a page here on LinkedIn, and here's how much engagement our company's content has been getting. And the team talked me into posting some content from me as the founder, and here's how much engagement that content got. Can you guess which one did better?
My guess is personal brand.
You guessed correctly. And so personal brands matter. Now, before you tune out, let me just add to this and say, don't jump to conclusions here, because I think there's a couple different camps of people here. There are the people who are like, oh, my personal brand days are over. I'm ready to scale. This is the story of scale. And so that's why I'm listening in. Are you about to tell me that I should revert back to the idea of building a personal brand? So there's this isn't relevant to me because, and then there's also like the freelancers that are trying to grow their businesses and build something that's bigger than them. And that's why the idea of scaling sounds interesting. Yep. And so they're going, how do I make my personal brand bigger? I have no interest in ever growing anything other than a personal brand, but I would like to do whatever I am currently doing more effectively. 100%. And so I think there's something here that's relevant for everyone. Would you agree?
100%. And I think the word personal brand has gotten adulterated a little bit. Personal brand didn't come into an existence because we all of a sudden went online. I think we think of personal brand as this online brand presence, but I think of a guy, and I was just actually walking with him in San Diego, lives in San Diego, runs one of the largest wealth firms in San Diego, and he doesn't have an online presence, very small. But in that community, he's got a very strong personal brand. People know who he is. Part of it's the way he does his hair. Everyone knows his favorite color is orange. If you ever see him, he's not wearing orange, something's not right, And so he's got a person, like everything you do is as a business owner and a founder in your community, if you're serving your community, is a personal brand. So I would say, I know we're going to probably talk mainly online, but it's one of those, we were actually talking, and the third guy that was walking with us was joking like, hey, you need to build your personal brand. And at the end of the hill, I said, actually, I think he's got a stronger personal brand than any of us. Because I told him, like, the look, like if you asked people what you think of this guy, they would clearly, if they asked someone, it wouldn't be as clear. Yeah. And so just to say, I think there's different versions of personal brand. Back in the day, even you were online, you were a founder business in the local community or whatever, you had a personal brand. Just looked different than maybe what it is today. And you still need one, even if it's not online.
I completely agree. And I think it might be helpful just to start by just breaking down those two words.
Yep.
Why personal and what is a brand? I have some strong opinions on this, but before I get to them, I just want to echo what you were saying. There are companies out there that I actually think of as personal brands. Disney is a massive behemoth of a company. It's literally called Disney because it was the dude's last name. Yep. It is the Walt Disney Company. It's still a personal brand, and he's been dead for a long time.
When we were wrestling with this question with Michael Hyatt, when we launched that company, it was Michael Hyatt and Company. It's now Full Focus Company. Yeah. And we did a bunch of research, and we said the top 100 brands, the most valuable brands in America, 85 of them were personal brands. Versace, JP Morgan Chase, all of them were started by a personal brand. Yeah. And then they've outlived that brand and become something bigger than that. But
Ramsey Solutions, another local Nashville company.
Yep.
You see them grappling with that. Like, do we launch these other personalities that maybe can outgrow or keep the legacy alive? Do we name the company after that? Do we keep the company name the same like Disney did, but still grow on to something that's bigger than the founder? It's
But
messy.
I think it's really good to break down those two words, like you said, like
Yeah.
personal. The reality is no matter even if Apple doesn't have a face or personality anymore, but
But
like
it is Steve Jobs.
yeah, there's still a person attached to it.
Yeah.
And Steve Jobs' like personal brand affects your thoughts of Apple,
Yes.
even though it wasn't named Tim Cook.
Yeah.
And the same thing in your business. Your customers, your prospects, when they hear your company, they're going to think of you, unfortunately, attached to it. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending. You know, because I'm saying unfortunately, if you're one of those people that like I don't want to create a personal brand. You're doing it whether you like it or not. It's just the human nature that we associate personal with your company. And I use company rather than brand because sometimes that gets funky, but like there is an association to it. You
100%.
can't separate the two.
Yeah. So it's personal because you are a person.
Yes.
All right. So that's word number one. Word number two, brand. I have very strong opinions,
Go
but
for
I would
it.
love to hear yours
go
first.
for it.
No, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. At the end of the day, a brand is a story, right? And a brand is a story, not a logo. A brand is a story, not a website. A brand is a story. Like you've got some sweet Nikes on. It's got a nice little swoosh on the side of them, but that swoosh is not the brand. The brand is the story that people tell themselves when they interact with one of the components of the brand. And it could be the logo, because you can look at an image and that image will lead you to tell yourself a story.
Feeling.
Yeah, a feeling. And ultimately, I think the world's most powerful brands aren't just stories that people tell themselves about that brand. They are brand stories that change the stories that people tell themselves about who they are, right? Like when I pull out my Apple iPhone, I don't tell myself a story about Apple. Apple's story and my interaction with their brand story changes the story that I tell myself about who I am, which sounds crazy, but it shifts my identity. It's a part of
Well,
it.
how many group messages are you in that you're like, who's the one guy?
It's green.
It's green.
Brandon, if you're listening, for crying out loud, switch.
Get
Make
an
the
iPhone.
switch.
Yeah. I literally am like, I cannot have a group thread if you have an Android. I can't do it. That's brand.
Yes, and
brand.
same thing. Like when you walk onto a Disney park, like there's very few neutral people. The only neutral people are maybe like, I don't love it, but I'm here because my family's here and they love it, or my kids or whatever. But that place changes the story that you tell yourself about the kind of person you are, who you are, what's possible, right? So I think those are really transformative brands. And ultimately, if a brand is a story and not a logo, then a personal brand is a story about a person who's going on a journey to try to aspire towards something. And other people are coming along for the ride, not because they want to just be an audience or a bystander to watch how that personal brand story unfolds, but because they feel a sense of connection and affinity with that brand, because it changes a part of the story they tell themselves about who they are.
Yep. And whether you've got like one of the best hacks to really scale is having a strong personal brand.
Yeah.
I mean, you look in the publishing world here in Nashville, they're going to publish a book. You may be a crappy author, but you've got a large personal brand, large online identity with a following, with an audience. They're going to give you money to write a book.
Yeah.
The book may be 4 out of 10, but it'll sell better than someone that's a 10 out of 10 writer with no audience at first.
Correct.
Which is why the importance, if you don't have a personal brand, I mean, one of my clients right now that I said, hey, I need 60 clients. One of the big things we're doing, and he's in his 60s, so we're helping him build a personal brand. Because the reality is he's so well respected in the industry, he doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
We just launched the first episode of his podcast, and the feedback he's gotten, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like this was like hidden knowledge that you were having, and you've been in this industry for 40 years, and now it's a give back thing for him now, which is really, really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So here's the question, I think, coming into this episode that I want everyone listening in thinking about is, do I, if I have a personal brand, go, oh, well, if I want to scale, then my story of scale has to be me branching out from my personal brand into building something bigger? Or are the people listening in who have already tried to build something bigger need to scale by way of building a personal brand? Or do we have to choose? Is it one or the other? And the case I think we're making is that you don't have to choose. It's both and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an exception to both rules, right? That like you can build a really successful company without having your personal brand attached to it. There's a lot of successful companies that you don't know who the founder is, the owner is. I mean, one of the big things that when I got hired at Michael Hyatt was, how do I create non-Michael revenue? And that's where the idea of the full focus planner came. Our goal was, hey, we launched this. It was off the back of Michael's audience, his personal brand. But our vision was we want people to buy this product that don't know who Michael Hyatt is at all. And there's companies like that. But we also, we got a head start because of Michael's personal brand.
Okay.
Which isn't always the case for some companies.
Sure. Okay. So this is the part where I get selfish and hijack the podcast.
Yeah, do it.
And say, I am now the personal brand who needs my team going, how do we generate non-Harris revenue? The path we're currently on, full transparency, is we're trying to help Shane develop his personal brand. We're trying to help Kate develop her personal brand. We're trying to help Ben develop his personal brand. Is the solution for everyone on the team who's a part of the core leadership team to all have personal brands? Is that how we scale, is through a personal brand portfolio? Is that one path?
It's one path. It wouldn't be the path I'd recommend.
Okay, let's hear it out.
Because, one, Shane could say, hey, screw you, I'm out. I don't know Shane, so I can
please, Shane, when you watch this.
But that's the downside of even the Ramsey personality model. That's happened a couple times.
Well, I think it's why I'm watching them struggle with it, right? It's like, cool, we just dumped however much effort we needed. Now you're a New York Times best-selling author, and they're like, peace.
So, I think that it comes back to what is it that you want to create, and what is the transformation that your customers want.
Yeah.
And, for us, when I look back at Michael Hyatt, we really said, hey, we're going to serve business owners and executives. So people with high buying power that have this problem that they have more things to do than they have time available. The planner was a product that solved that. Was like, we're going to get all this stuff out of your head. The Pareto principle, 80%, 20% drives 80% of the result.
Sure.
And so, if we can help you get clear on the big three, so it was, and, we tried LeaderBox, which ended up being a $3 million company, but it was super thin margins, wasn't high leverage. High leverage was a core value of ours. We just literally took $3 million off of the top line revenue and just shut it down one day. Because it's like, this isn't the thing that's going to get us to scale. But for some people, that was scale. Building a $3 billion brand, 15% margin, but that was what led us to ultimately the planner. And because we always obsessed about who we were serving, and we asked that question and what could we do to solve that problem, that's where the ideas came. And if I took time, there's probably other things that failed before the full focus planner. It wasn't just like, all of a sudden we had this great thing. But the coaching program had 3 different lives before it ended up Business Accelerator. And we always pivoted. Almost every year we were like, okay, based on what we did this year, does it change? Does our mission statement change at all?
Yeah.
Like who we're serving, does it change? And there were 3 years in a row that it changed because we learned a little bit more about that. And so if we got really clear on that, then it's like, okay, well, what are the biggest problems they have? The planner was a thing that was like, hey, that was a thing that it was a physical product. There was no name on it, nothing attached, but we knew people had more stuff to do and apps weren't solving the problem.
So this is really interesting because I think what we're getting at is perhaps some of the stuff that people listening in are actually fearful of when it comes to personal brand. Because I'm going, well, I want to build the personal brand of this person on my team. And then you're going, what if they say, screw you, and I'm out? Which is, ironically, now that I review my past, that's actually happened before. I've helped someone build their personal brand, and they took that brand equity with them.
Yeah.
So is it I'm choosing a different path, or is it perhaps both and? Is there value in every person on the team having a personal brand? It's just if you rely on that as your only growth strategy.
I think it's 100% valuable for those people to have the personal brand and for them to be active and saying, hey, I'm part of Istoria, whatever. Like that's super valuable. But if it is the lone strategy for scale, you're setting there are a lot of risks involved.
So that means we're leveraging the power of personal brands, plural, to build a singular brand called Istoria. Is that the path we should be?
Yeah, but I would say the personal brand would be a marketing strategy. I would come up with other marketing strategies as the whole marketing
Yep.
and not rely solely on that,
Sure.
because it could,
Yeah. It's interesting because that's what I know, right? I'm thinking to myself, like, why am I banking so much on that singular strategy? And I'm like, well, I know how to build a personal brand. I've built mine. I've succeeded at helping a lot of other people build
What
7-figure personal brands.
what do you want to build most in 2026? Is it poetics? Is it story?
Yeah, it's what we call the Guild, which is made up of 3 smaller communities. And they're all basically 3 avatars for leaders that I think shape the world. I want to shape the lives and leadership of the people who are shaping the world. And so the most powerful storytellers of the planet are parents who are leading families. It's organizational leaders that are leading teams, and entrepreneurs that are leading businesses. So we put those people into these smaller cohorts and mentor them by helping them leverage the power of story to solve big story problems and grow themselves, their communities, and the world.
So I would really dumb it down and say, okay, so you said families, business owners, kind of organizational leaders are like the
Yeah.
3 different, you've got a product for each of those avatars.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what,
It's
how,
the same product with 3 different mentors, essentially.
got it. Yeah. And I know this, but I'm like doing this for the audience, but trying to coach here in the moment. Like if I were, what would I do?
Uh-huh.
Is thinking through, obviously leveraging personal brand, I think for that type of product is really smart.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also offset that with what other marketing activities? How do I with this idea around story, how am I positioning myself in the family parenting space?
Mm-hmm.
What on social media are we talking about?
Mhm.
What's the big product? Like, could we create something to generate leads
Sure.
to bring them in that's solely about that?
But this is the pain of scale, right? Because to do that, let's just use that example, content. Okay, so we're going to create content in that family space. Who is the deliverer of that content? It's going to be a person. How is that person going to succeed? By building a personal brand. And so at some point, there has to be Istoria content, not personal brand content. But Istoria content is always going to be delivered by a human.
Yeah.
And so it's the human as representative of, and that's the merch.
User-generated content in today's age.
Nano banana.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to live up to our imagination age point of view.
I don't believe in it, but I know there's a lot of people like making a living doing it.
Nameless, faceless. And maybe that's it. It's like, oh, well, the other side of that is the nameless, faceless everything, right? And that's the path that I don't believe in. So as I'm wrestling with this with you, I think that's the right answer. It's both and. It's that, hey, don't put all of your eggs into helping people build up. Don't go all in on the personality model where you build up only personal brands, but instead a 2-pronged strategy that prioritizes the power of personal brand and its influence mixed with the leverage of personal brand to build the company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we solved that. That's it for no. I'm just joking. All right. If we had to summarize this down for this episode, what are kind of some of your key takeaways as you think about our conversation around the power of personal brand?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you just touched on it. Creating a personal brand will help you scale faster.
Yes.
It's not the only path to scale, but I would challenge you that why are you against it? I would say one of my clients right now, he was against it for a while. And if you're older, it's typically like, I don't want to embrace the new technology. I got to talk into a phone. I got to do this, like all the ramifications they feel like comes with a personal brand. I would say the reality is you've got one, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So why don't you take ownership of it and leverage these new tools and technology? You have young people in your community, if you go to church, find someone that's like tech savvy, or like not just church, but anywhere, like your neighborhood, come over and have this topic that your customer cares about. Talk about it for 30, 40 seconds. Yep. Post Instagram shorts or reels and YouTube shorts. All those types of things can create marketing, create awareness, create, people talking about your brand. Mm-hmm. That's going to help you scale. Like if you told me, should I build a personal brand? The answer to that is always yes. Is it the only thing? No. Is it the most powerful thing? I think you could argue, hell yeah, it is. And and this is easy. I've made a living off of helping personal brands grow and scale. Mm-hmm. And I've done a bad job of building my personal brand. It's really easy to tell someone else.
Yeah.
to do it and how to do it,
Cobbler shoes.
you know. And part of that, what we're doing today, you know, and with this podcast is that. But to me, it's not like, I see it as like I'm adding value
Mhm.
to someone else. And like, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what are the things that challenge people the most? And then I'll speak into that. And if that builds my, like, that's how I'm justifying it to myself.
Yeah.
Because I mean, who needs to hear more people talking about this?
Mhm.
This is like the lie that's in my head. But then when I get around people that really know me and they ask questions, they're like, you think about it differently. You see something that other people don't see, you know, and it's real easy for me to forget that.
Yeah.
And same thing with you, you know, like there's a lot of people talking about story,
Mhm.
but I don't think that have the experience that you have, the stage time that you have, the amount of like amazing creatives that you serve, um, and that really plays that out in their life and in their own family. I don't think anyone's doing it like you're doing.
Oh, thanks, man. Those are awesome. I think if I had two takeaways, one, I go back to a conversation that we had a long time ago where, I was trying to scale by way of kind of what I said earlier. It's like, well, I need to not always be the guy. And so let me find some other quote unquote
Yep.
guys. And some of them are women, right? I don't mean guy in the masculine sense, but I need some other people. And as we had that conversation, you asked me enough questions to help me bump into the reality that I had bought into some sort of myth that my ceiling was so low that that was the only option to scale. Because to me, I think a lot of times we hear personal brand and we think, oh yeah, maybe a million, maybe a couple million.
Yeah.
But there's no way I can grow a personal brand to like 10 or 20 million.
Mhm.
I need a multiple personal brands. And so I've got to build a portfolio of personal brands. Next thing you know, you're acting like a portfolio company, but your portfolio company is just 10 humans, all of whom have a personal brand. And I think you allowed me to get rid of that ceiling. And some of it was just access to numbers.
Yep.
That's why I love you normalizing numbers, talking about money. We talked about that in a previous episode. But it's like, no, you could do 10, 20 million just as a personal brand without having to brand, quote unquote, brand other personal stories,
Yep.
so to speak.
Totally.
So that's one thing. I think if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, personal brands aren't for me, I'm trying to get to 8 figures. I bet you could list off 20 names
Totally.
in 60 seconds.
Yeah. And when they started, they didn't think that's where they would go.
Yeah.
And, I think there's businesses out there that the product becomes the brand, right?
Yeah.
And that there's so many evangelists. The product is so great. I think of even the tools, utilities we use on a daily basis, like Sonos. We're both Sonos fans. Like, there's no personality attached to that.
Right.
But maybe that's why.
Yeah.
It hasn't grown. Like you look at Beats. I mean, they've used the whole, personality influencer.
Yeah.
And even though there's been no personal brand attached to it, actually there was. Trey was the guy that did it, as I'm saying it. But but now the brand is, people attached to it because people buy from people.
And now that you're saying it, what I'm realizing is that even the big nameless, faceless brands in 2026 and beyond, what are they primarily doing in order to increase sales and scale? They are tying themselves to influencer marketing campaigns, which is essentially we're trying to tie this nameless, faceless brand to a name and a face.
Yeah.
Make it personal.
Yeah.
It's the future.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is the past, present, and the future.
Yeah.
It's just some of us have missed it all along.
Yeah.
All right. The second thing I was thinking of that I was going to tack on is, this is the journey that you're on right now. You're saying, I've got to get my own personal brand more out there. It's commonly said that people buy from people they know, like, and trust. We know that, we think that, but we don't really break down those words. So if I'm going to buy from you because I trust you because I like you, how do I decide if I like you or not? I have to get to know you.
Yeah.
But in order for me to get to know you, what do you have to do? You have to allow yourself to be known.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're listening in, like one of the things that you've got to commit to is what we're not talking about is managing people's perceptions to the extent that you're saying whatever you have to say or being whatever you have to be. Otherwise, you're going to leave out the authenticity that's required for you to succeed at a personal brand that gets to the trust part. You have to allow yourself to be known. And that feels scary to a lot of people. And I think that's why there's people out there who know deep down you should be building a personal brand, but you're not. Because to get to the buying part, you got to get through the liking and trusting part. And to get to those stages, you have to allow yourself to be known. And that sounds scary and vulnerable, but it's part of the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So good. I was going to say, you jumped on it, but it's like, if you're going to do this, be your authentic self.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to say things that are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there. There's a lot, in our stories that are vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through a really hard season right now that right now is not the time to talk about it, but there will be a time to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to, hold that with care to figure out when is it going to be helpful for other people. That's when I feel like it's going to be worth talking about, not, for me or anything like that. But, I think and that's something honestly that keeps me back from doing it. Cause it's like, oh, like I'm going to have to go there.
Yeah.
But that's also like, it's who I am. And it's like, and I want to be authentic because I've had a lot of cheerleaders in my head like you that are like, no, you've like this, what you've done, people need to know. And so, but it is like, sometimes it's, why am I doing this? Why? I could just keep my head down and keep serving my clients, and which I'm still plan on doing and love doing. And at the end of the day, it's more like, I see this as almost a give back, but also like challenging myself to be like, oh, I'm doing this for my clients. Why can't I do it for myself?
Yeah. Literally, as you were saying, it's almost a give back. What I was literally thinking in my head is your willingness to allow yourself to be known by sharing more of your story
Yeah.
not only gives us the wisdom that we need from you to succeed at the story of scale, because that wisdom is a byproduct of the story you've lived. I was also thinking it is literally a gift. Like to allow yourself to be known by others is a gift to them.
Yep.
And so many of us don't build the personal brand because we're like, oh, I don't want to be selfish, or I don't want to make this about me. And yet you are making it about you by selfishly keeping that to yourself, because we can't get to the wisdom without the story.
So true.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's why this has the name that it is, the story of scale.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I can't wait for that story to be more told. And by that story, I don't mean this like singular thing, but the fullness of the stories of who each of us are and who you are. That's what the story of scale process is all about. And really, like we're all humans trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And hopefully you're figuring out a little bit more than you would if you were doing this in isolation. So thank you for your wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me hijack this episode and get a little bit of free consulting from Chad on the process of scaling my own personal brand. I hope this has been helpful to you. If so, we'd love for you to leave a review. You're probably quite a few episodes in now, unless this is your very first episode. So if you don't mind, it'd be super helpful to leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. If you're watching, subscribe to the podcast. If someone forwarded this along to you, you're not subscribed yet, turn on notifications so you don't miss a single episode. But we'd love a rating. It really does help. Just like an Amazon review on a book, a rating on a podcast bumps it up. It helps other people know whether they should click the listen button or not. So if this has been helpful to you, congratulations. You didn't have to pay a single thing for it other than the time it took you to listen. And so just one little way to say thank you would just be click the little rating button, click one of those stars, or leave an actual review. That means the world to us. We appreciate your help, us scaling the story of scale to get this out into the heads of, and the minds of, and the hearts of a lot more people. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next week here on The Story of Scale. Talk soon.
The Story of Scale podcast is a production of the Istoria studio, recorded on location in Chattanooga, Tennessee at Socially You Studios. For more resources on how to not only scale your business, but live a story worth scaling, visit istoria.com/scale.